Welcome, dear viewers, to a place where the natural world and the supernatural collide. Tonight, we venture into the unsettling quiet of abandoned botanical research labs, places where life and death have long been intertwined. Within these decaying walls, where nature's secrets were once probed, now linger echoes of something more sinister. Turn down the lights, make sure you're not alone, and prepare for 3 tales of chilling encounters. Our story takes us to the overgrown grounds of the abandoned Blackwood Institute. Dr. Eleanor Wright, a young botanist, arrived at Blackwood hoping to find remnants of a rare orchid in the facility's records. The institute, once at the forefront of botanical research, now stood in disrepair. The air hung heavy with decay, broken only by the rustling of leaves. As Dr. Wright stepped into the main laboratory, she felt a cold shiver. The room was dark, illuminated only by slivers of moonlight through grime-covered windows. She could almost feel the presence of past researchers moving among the shadows. Dust-covered tables held remnants of long-abandoned experiments. One notebook, lying open on a table, caught her eye. It detailed Dr. Silas Blackwood's work and his obsession with a rare orchid. As Dr. Wright turned the brittle pages, a musty scent filled her nostrils. Night after night, she was drawn back to the lab, captivated by the notes. She felt connected to Dr. Blackwood, her fascination mirroring his own. One night, she saw the faint outline of a figure in the doorway. It was a man in an old-fashioned lab coat. Fear coiled in her stomach, yet she couldn't look away. The figure glided towards her, making no sound. As it moved into the moonlight, Dr. Wright gasped. It was the spectral form of Dr. Silas Blackwood, his eyes burning with intensity. Frozen in place, she watched as the apparition reached out a translucent hand. "You seek my flower," the ghost whispered, his voice a dry rasp. Dr. Wright wanted to scream, but terror held her captive. She could only manage a small nod, her heart pounding. "It is not meant for mortal hands," the ghost continued. "Its beauty conceals a terrible power that consumed me in life." The spectral hand moved closer, its icy coldness seeping into her skin. Dr. Wright felt a sharp pain, images flashing before her eyes. A glowing orchid and Dr. Blackwood in agony. She stumbled back, breaking free from the ghost's touch. She scrambled to her feet, the images seared into her mind. She fled from the lab and the spectral presence of Dr. Blackwood. She never returned to Blackwood Institute, haunted by the ghostly encounter and the dark fate of the orchid. Our next story takes us to the crumbling remains of the once renowned Fairchild Research Facility, a sprawling complex of greenhouses and laboratories, swallowed by the relentless creep of nature. It was here that a team of graduate students, led by the ambitious but reckless Daniel Carter, found themselves facing the wrath of the unknown. Tasked with collecting plant samples for their research, they paid little heed to the local rumors of strange occurrences and restless spirits within the facility's decaying walls. The team arrived at the facility in the late afternoon, the sun casting long, eerie shadows through the grimy glass panes of the greenhouses. The air inside the facility was thick with humidity, the stench of decay overpowering, and the silence was broken only by the dripping of water from leaky pipes. They quickly set up their equipment, their excitement at the prospect of discovering rare and potentially valuable plant specimens overshadowing any lingering unease. As dusk settled and darkness enveloped the facility, the team split up, each student venturing into a different greenhouse. Daniel found himself drawn to the largest greenhouse, its rusted metal framework supporting a labyrinth of overgrown vines and drooping flowers. He switched on his flashlight, its beam cutting through the oppressive darkness, revealing glimpses of exotic plants, their once vibrant colors now faded with neglect. The air in the greenhouse was stifling, heavy with the smell of damp earth and something else, something vaguely metallic, that sent a shiver down Daniel's spine. He pushed on, his flashlight beam dancing over strange and wonderful plants, their leaves rustling despite the absence of any breeze. Suddenly, a high-pitched whine pierced the silence, followed by the unmistakable sound of shattering glass. Daniel spun around, his heart pounding, his flashlight beam darting around the greenhouse, searching for the source of the noise. "Who's there?" he called out, his voice echoing in the stillness. There was no reply, only the sound of his own breathing and the incessant dripping of water. He cautiously made his way towards the source of the noise, his hand trembling as he reached for his pocket knife. As he rounded a corner, his flashlight beam illuminated a sight that made his blood run cold. A figure, tall and skeletal, draped in what looked like tattered lab coats, stood amidst a pile of broken glass, its back to him. It appeared to be clutching something in its bony fingers, something that glinted ominously in the dim light. Daniel's breath caught in his throat. He wanted to scream, but no sound came out. The figure turned slowly, its head tilting at an unnatural angle. And as it did so, Daniel caught a glimpse of its face, or what was left of it. The flesh was decayed, revealing a grinning skull beneath, its empty sockets seeming to stare directly at him. Daniel stumbled back, dropping his flashlight in his haste to get away. He turned and ran, his heart pounding in his chest. The image of the skeletal figure seared into his mind. He didn't stop running until he'd burst into the relative safety of the main laboratory, where his fellow students were gathered, their faces etched with concern. Breathlessly, he recounted what he had seen, his voice trembling with terror. Chapter 3. The Cursed Plant. Our final tale leads us to the desolate Abernathy laboratories, where nature has reclaimed what was once a hub of groundbreaking botanical research. The labs, now shrouded in an eerie silence, hold a dark secret, a secret tied to the legacy of Dr. Evelyn Abernathy, a brilliant but eccentric botanist, who vanished without a trace, leaving behind whispers of a cursed plant. Local legends spoke of a plant, discovered by Dr. Abernathy on an expedition deep within the Amazon rainforest, rumored to possess unparalleled healing properties, but at a terrible cost. They said it was cursed, capable of draining the life force of those who dared to harness its power. Many dismissed these stories as mere folklore, but for those who dared to venture into the ruins of Abernathy laboratories, the legend of the cursed plant took on a chilling reality. A group of friends, driven by their thirst for adventure and a disregard for local law, decided to explore the abandoned labs. They were drawn by the mystery of Dr. Abernathy's disappearance and the possibility, however remote, of finding the legendary plant. They arrived at the labs in the early hours of the morning, the rising sun casting an ethereal glow on the overgrown ruins. The air was thick with the smell of damp earth and decaying vegetation, and an unsettling silence hung in the air, broken only by the sound of their own footsteps. They entered the main laboratory, a cavernous space cluttered with broken glass, overturned tables, and scattered papers, remnants of a frantic evacuation. As they ventured deeper into the labs, they stumbled upon a hidden chamber, its entrance concealed by a wall of overgrown vines. The air within the chamber was heavy, thick with the cloying scent of something both alluring and repulsive. In the center of the chamber, bathed in a single ray of sunlight that pierced through a crack in the ceiling, stood a solitary plant. It was unlike anything they had ever seen before. Its stem was a sickly pale green, almost translucent, and pulsed with an eerie internal light. Its leaves, a deep shade of purple that seemed to absorb the surrounding light, unfurled slowly, revealing delicate patterns that resembled human veins. A single blood-red flower bloomed at its apex, its petals velvety soft and edged with razor-sharp thorns. The friends were captivated, their eyes drawn to the plant as if by an unseen force. One by one they reached out to touch it, mesmerized by its strange beauty, oblivious to the danger that lurked beneath its alluring exterior. The first to touch it, a young woman named Sarah, gasped as a jolt of energy surged through her body. Her eyes widened and a look of pure ecstasy spread across her face. But the moment was fleeting. Her hand, the one that had touched the plant, began to tremble, the skin rapidly aging, turning dry and withered, like a leaf left too long in the sun. The others watched in horror as Sarah screamed, desperately trying to pull her hand away from the plant, but it was no use. The plant seemed to pulse with a malevolent energy, its grip on her tightening. As they watched, helpless to intervene, the life seemed to drain from Sarah, her youthful vibrancy replaced by a deathly pallor. Her screams faded to a whimper, and then silence. The plant released its grip, and Sarah's lifeless body crumpled to the floor, Her hand a withered husk as if aged a lifetime in a matter of seconds. Panic erupted among the remaining friends. Thank you for joining me tonight, brave viewers, as we journeyed into the unsettling world of abandoned labs and botanical horrors. Remember, the natural world holds secrets, some best left undisturbed. If you found these tales of terror intriguing, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more explorations into the shadows. And if you dare, share your own encounters with the unexplained in the comments below.